I believe the governor announced that he was going to close non-essential businesses on the 15th, which is a Sunday afternoon. I have the luxury and the omen of working with some really talented, smart people, and we kind of saw it coming. And there was this very small group of us in the restaurant who tracked a lot of what was happening in the world and the communities around us, not only in our state, but just what was happening. And we would speak off the cuff and just, fuck, what are we gonna do? I mean, like, what happens if? And, find out the NBA shut down operations. That's big. I mean, that's billions of dollars with huge ripple effects, television and, the Cavs not being downtown, so you could see if the big guys are doing it, it's eventually going to hit us. So I wasn't blindsided by it. I wasn't disappointed or angry by it. I was a little nervous and a little afraid of what the outcome would be if it was prolonged. But I feel like I had a little more readiness, a little more preparedness for that decision. The timing of setting a date to do anything during a pandemic is tough for anyone to reply and not sound political. Listen, I'm not a politician. People in my family were. I know how politics work. I know a lot of the decisions that were made by our governor and leaders are perceived in different ways, sometimes just based on which side of the aisle you stand on. I tried to stay non-judgmental. I felt like he was doing the right thing at the right time. Even though he decided to open outdoor dining mid-May, as a small business owner, my responsibilities to the people that I work with and the community, I decided not to. Like I said, I don't think there's a good time to make any of these decisions. I think what someone may respect or understand and appreciate more is if there was an explanation based on the decisions, whether it's science-based or data-based, numbers. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the decisions that were made, whether you agree or not, could be misconstrued based on what you see and hear on television. Again, the guidelines that were put in place are based on public health and safety by people who do that for a living. They're science-based, they're data-driven. I didn't disagree or agree with all of them, but I understood and appreciated why they were implemented, and it was basically to save human lives, to flatten a curve, to protect the innocent, and I think that they were based on motivating us to come together as a whole. They weren't partisan decisions. Well, I think the decision to bring back staff, to reopen, to make decisions on what style of service that we were happy and felt comfortable with, goes back to my beliefs that every small business owner has the ability and should have the right to make the decisions based on what's best for them. I have never been one to do something because someone else was doing it, but I have a lot of respect for a lot of people in this industry, in our community, who I would reach out to and just ask them how they were doing it, whether I needed directions or pointers or some advice. And I would say the vast majority of it I didn't follow. We discussed this as a team. So we didn't open to do carryout for almost 3 months. We decided to do carryout only, and it's only a carryout service only at both locations. And it wasn't until recently that we pulled permits to allow for outdoor dining only. So as of today, we are still not open for inside service, and I don't have a date set. It just didn't work for us. I have 55 people that are coworkers, 55 people that I work with that I'm responsible for, plus their families and their immediate families. So for me to say, we're going to open so that we can make money, and I got to choose my words wisely because I don't want to exaggerate, but jeopardize, put them at risk when I don't have to. So we collectively said that only 6 of us were going to come back to work, that we would make a commitment to each other to follow the guidelines, not when we're working, and that while we were at work, we were going to implement as many new protocols as we could to protect us while we were there, but also use that as a guidance so that when we did reopen, each location had 6 or 7 people with 2 months of experience on the new protocols to teach and hold everyone else accountable. So I mean, from disinfecting and hand washing and wearing masks and stickers on the floor and signage in the window, we're ready for that. But it's how to walk in the back door, punch in, put your stuff down, disinfect yourself, to setting timers that go off every 30 minutes. And the white one is wash your hands, and the yellow one is disinfect all the doorknobs and faucets in the building, and the blue one is to change over the Stearamine water at the bar, in the kitchen, and for busing stations. Even though we're not open, we still do it to form good habits. Well, bringing back staff is a great responsibility that I took very serious. The pandemic caused me to reevaluate my role. It was less of bringing people in the door and more of protect, safety measures, survival, longevity, all those issues. So the reason we didn't open when we could have was to see how the community's health and safety was. The reason we decided to do only carryout was based on the fact that there were still 40 coworkers who were financially healthy and still safe by sitting at home. So there's no reason for me to jeopardize that. So my decisions are based on what's best for the group. I always tried, at the beginning of the pandemic, I always was focused on 2 to 3 weeks. Like, what do I need to do today to be prepared for 2 to 3 weeks? And then it turned into, much longer than I think all of us anticipated. And by May, it was, okay, well, what do I need to do for the next 4 to 6 weeks? And right now, we're in a position that if we continue to do what we're doing and how we're doing it, there's a very, very good chance that the vast majority of our staff will be financially safe, physically healthy, and relieved of the stress that their jobs will be there when they want to return through the first of the year. And so it's taken a lot of work by the 12 of us to ensure that we were all in that same position. the green light was given for non-essential businesses to open, it may have set the precedent that everything was better, and in my opinion, actually it's not even my opinion, it's the facts. It's still not safe. It's definitely not safer. I mean, April was bad, and there was a lot of hospitalizations, and a lot of people were sick, and there was a lot of deaths. And as of July, the numbers are 2 or 3 times higher. Whether an individual has the pandemic fatigue and is just sick and tired of it and wishes we could go back to normal, and so they start thinking in a different way, may have an effect on why people did what they did. The other reason would be, like I said, I don't own every business. Some people might have had to have opened. That maybe they were on their last, stitch effort to get some income and save some jobs. There needs to be some sort of financial injection into many industries that were overlooked, not only since March, but in the past decade. There is a bill on the desk of the Senate that's for the Restaurant Relief Act, which would help our industry. And I believe if you ask the vast majority of restaurateurs, rent relief would be one of the biggest uses for the funds. Probably health insurance or coverage, and some sort of relief in payroll. Because if you're not open, you're not buying liquor, and if you're not open, you're not buying food. And when you turn the gas and electricity off because the doors aren't open, it's minimal. So there's some common sense stuff. But the reason I say that is because the restaurant industry employs, I believe, 11.5 million people in the country, plus farmers and winemakers and cheesemongers and fishermen, delivery guys, porters. You name it. There's millions, and nothing has been addressed. However, the airline industry that's got 750,000 employees has already received $250 billion. No, I'm sorry. I believe they've gotten $25 billion, and they're looking for another $25 billion. I don't want to get my numbers wrong. And granted, if you're a pilot, and if you're a mechanic, and if you're a truck driver for fuel, and if you're, working in the airport, janitorial, security, don't listen. I'm not saying that someone is better or worse. But I almost feel like if we looked at this from the standpoint of saying the auto industry and the airline industry is very, very important, and there's a lot of people it touches. But you know what we should do? Let's shut down 4 to 6 weeks and pay everyone, so that you don't need to get to an airport, and you don't need to get in a car, and you don't need to go eat at a restaurant. You don't need to get your hair cut. You don't need to go buy a new pair of shoes at the mall. Let's just everybody do that. And it was equally dispersed with the entire country at mind. But when we pick and choose, it's almost the divide between us has been created. I don't feel like I should look at the airline industry and be angry with them. They didn't do anything, right? But someone is pitting me against them. Someone is saying, look what they got and look what you didn't get. The music industry, musicians can't work because they can't play out. Jukeboxes, DJs, reception halls, live music venues, whether it's the little club down the street or if you want to go down to the queue, you can't. But what makes them less important than getting on a plane because you want to go to Florida or you want to take a trip to Chicago? It doesn't make sense to me. So you were asking about the funds is there enough funds? There's never enough funds. There's not enough funds now. We didn't do it right the first time. And so I think we're all stuck in a place where I'm concerned about my coworkers and if they're going to get enough money to pay their rent. In our instance, we did not receive any federal help the first go around. I applied for 7 local grants and I only received 2. One of them was for $3,000, which didn't even cover half of 1 month's rent. The second go around on PPP, we did get accepted, but it was very, very little and it didn't make sense to me. And I waited and waited until end of June. And on my 3rd try with the PPP, we did get funded, which definitely relieves some of the pressure and stress from being able to pay the overhead such as rent and utilities, but most importantly, to make sure that the 12 people that I'm still working with are paid. There are many things that I think our community could do to help restaurants. But I have to look at the bigger picture. Yes, I would like you to continue to visit your favorite dining spot, whether you order carry out or you're able to sit down and eat dinner. Yes, I would like you to, buy gift cards to your favorite restaurant. But I think the best thing that the Northeast Ohio, and let me tell you, I feel like we're blessed to be where we are. Customer support has been great. I have not heard much negativity from my peers in the restaurants. There's a handful of people who don't want to follow guidelines, but I think you can pick any topic and there's somebody who always disagrees, and I think that's the kind of the beauty about being in this country. Like I said, I think we're lucky for the support that we have gotten, even pre-pandemic. And I'm pretty sure that when this thing finally plateaus and we start seeing a decrease, and whether there's a vaccine or herd immunity, but the next 12 to 16 months, for those of us who could get through this, we should really count our blessings, and we should really look at this and say, that we appreciate each other.